I
That is.
my wife just she's in charge of our business email, and she was like, "There's office hours for Bright Investor," and I was like, "What?" And and I and I was like, "Totally got to sign up for it." So
Oh,
um,
absolutely. Every Wednesday night and every Saturday, for I don't know what, 6 months now, six or
nice.
so months, 6 months, something like that.
Man, I wish
Uh,
I would have known sooner. I would have been on here, man. That's just my fault. So
oh, that's interesting. No, that's good to know because I always wonder if it's like if it's like an email deliverability thing. If we're not hitting emails appropriately or something like that, I wonder. Um, so that's interesting. Keep me posted if you don't mind on if the emails keep getting to you on time or not. You keep seeing them as you move forward. So I get
yeah.
people sometimes like, "You guys host office hours?" I'm like, "Yeah, we've been doing it for about 6 months," and they're like, "Man, so something maybe it's something on our end."
Yeah.
No problem. But Jason, my man, Jason is having a very good day today. He
Nice.
joined the Bright Investor Diamond program, and he got accepted on his fourplex today.
Let's
mm mm
go.
Yeah, tiny little pro forma cash flow of over almost $2,500 a month. Not too shabby for an on-market property. Not too shabby.
Mm.
Yes, I'm praying
Guys,
that everything works out with it.
yeah, we're excited. We'll be working through it. Jason, I got that contract I'm reviewing for you, so I'll have that back to you by end of day for sure.
Okay, perfect. I'm just worried something will go wrong in the inspection. I'm hoping it doesn't because it's
That's
good.
that's where we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be waiting, but yeah, it's a really cool property. So hopefully we'll learn more once we have the inspection this week. But that'll be a good one. I think it's really cool, Jason. If you don't, hope you don't mind me sharing some of the details on this on
Oh,
the
it's fine.
property a little bit. But this property in place rents are like 1,000, and the pro forma plan over the next about year and a half, 2 years to minimize out of pocket costs are going to raise the rents from $1,000 to 1,800. Beautiful. This thing's going to cash flow like crazy. That's with paying a property manager. Remember that, Jason. That's with paying a property manager. So if
Yes.
you wanted to, if you took that off, you'd be at almost $3,000 a month. Makes me happy. Rich, I hope
Yes.
you heard that. New fourplex from Jason today at Diamond, almost 2,500 to cash flow. So absolutely big hands off to Jason for that one, crushing it. Now, hopefully, it all works out in the inspection. But so far, if you've already seen 3 units, you've gotten eyes on it. So hopefully, not too much will go wrong. But
Where's the property?
overall,
Chicago.
it
Oh, nice.
be fun. So with more folks pulling in, I'll go ahead and do our usual announcements for folks today. Of course, big hats off to Jason. We'll keep people updated as he works through that one.
Thanks.
But welcome to office hours as always. Thanks for being here, guys. Biggest announcement is you guys have probably seen in Bright Investor the last 48 hours. We did release a new version. It has been pushed to live, and we just did some last minute fixes today as well. So if you're on Bright Investor, you might notice some additional upgrades. So I'll spend a little bit of time today going through some of those new upgrades so you guys can see what those look like, and I'll explain them all to you. And then, of course, we'll open the floor up for questions, comments, concerns as we go on from there. So I'll go ahead and pop open Bright Investor for you guys, and I am going to be sharing what is new. All righty. Yeah, big congrats for Jason. Okie dokie. So some of the new things you are going to be seeing in Bright Investor. Probably the thing you're going to notice the most uh, is when you are searching for deals. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to pick St. Louis as usual. When you click on search deals, there are now a lot more filters. Okay. Some ones you need to notice are properties owned, min and max. This will now allow you to search for people who only own a portfolio of deals. So if you want to find people who say, I want to find someone that owns at least 2, 5, 10 deals in their whole portfolio, you can now set that. So I know who we had the other day on the Brand Investor office hours. Rich, you might remember his name, but he was buying the guy's whole portfolio, right? He had 12 deals. He's buying the guy's whole portfolio. This is how we can find those opportunities. Second, year built min and max. Some of you guys asked for that. You can now filter for specific build years in your properties. If you want to be only pre-1980s or 2000s or newer, things of that nature. Flood zone, big one. You can now search for whether it's in or not in a flood zone. And equity minimums. So if you want to find properties that are only have, hey, at a minimum, it needs to have at least 20% equity or 30% equity in the home, we can now search for those minimums as well. Other down here, you'll probably notice that we've added the ability to look for assumable loans by tackling on this filter. And for those who are not yet familiar with this filter, individual owned, as a reminder, individual owned means that the person does not own the property through an LLC. They own it in their personal name. So that means it's also it's easier to get in touch with them, easier to find them. But what I can tell you, and I know I've been saying this for a while now, so I'm actually saying this. We're updating our skip tracing providers, and LLC skip tracing should be here within 72 hours, including the ability to fix some of the bulk skip tracing we've been having issues with. So we're fixing that and adding LLC in. So you'll be able to skip trace individual and corporate owned is the fingers crossed, finally getting it on there. So the other thing you guys will notice when you search for deals specifically that are on market opportunities is we've changed how this works. So now on the right-hand side, we will include photos of the properties whenever available, and they'll filter on the right-hand side, kind of like you're on a Zillow. And okay, I gotta find a more densely populated area. Let's say over here. And if you are searching for on-market homes, this is what it now looks like. We will debut the first 6 properties on that list and show you the photos of those properties as you're scrolling down like you were like on a Zillow or something like it. And as you scroll this list, you're going to see more properties pop up on the map. Now, each of these can be clicked on, of course, like this one. And all the information is here and available still. But now big update there is that we have the photos here. We've changed how these load so you can see more properties a little bit easier. We found that it's like if there's 100 properties, it'd be nice to know where they are in the map so you guys can look and then pick the property that's in that area. So now you can do that.
Can you see the
other
interior pictures? Can you see interior pictures?
For some of them, yes. So we still have that. So we still have that for some of the photos for some of the properties here. It depends. If you click on it, you can be able to toggle through. So it depends on what property you're looking at. In addition to that, let's show an example here. Let me see if I can find a good example. Okay. So in addition to that, with these properties as well, this is more for our lender friends, but also for folks who are interested in seeing how, if you guys are getting DSCR loans on any properties you're trying to buy, we have released a new calculator. This is the DSCR calculator. We worked with the lender to basically create this to show you how would a DSCR lender underwrite your property. Or if you are a lender, your ability to be able to quote multiple properties at the same time. So let's say we have a deal here and the rents are going to be $3,200. And what this will do is tell you what is your, and let's assume there's going to be I'll kind of walk through this whole process. It's a little bit complicated, but it's a very powerful tool if you can look at it. What this is going to do is say, tell me what your purchase price is going to be and how much your loan to value is going to be. What's your interest rate? How long you're going to have the loan? So 360 months to be a 30-year loan. And if there's any interest-only period for your loan. So sometimes lenders will give you an interest-only period. So in this case, let's say you have 10 years of interest only. What this will then do is take the rents, taxes, insurance, and things of that nature, and tell you what is your payment going to be when you're in your interest-only period? And what is your total payment going to be when you're not in your interest-only period? What that will do is then tell you what is the DSCR for the property in both of those situations. So when you're in your interest-only period, this property's DSCR is almost 7. When it is fully amortizing and you're paying your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association fees, the DSCR is 1.2. And for those of us who are familiar with DSCR loan products, most of the times they're underwriting to a minimum of 1 to 1.2. So you could look at this and say, yes, I know a DSCR lender is going to be okay with this property, has a fine DSCR. What this will also do is tell you what your monthly principal and interest is going to be on a monthly basis. So noting key principal and interest does not include taxes, insurance, or association fees, which is why this number is different. And what your overall monthly profit would be on the deal. The other component of this calculator is that you guys can run multiple scenarios using the new view quotes section. I will tease the fact that we are planning to release this functionality for every calculator, but now you can simply add in multiple quotes. So if you wanted to run this 3 different ways or run the property multiple ways, you can now have those live at the same time and click between them. Eventually, we will do the same thing for every other analyzer. So let's say you're doing a long-term rental, you'll be able to swap between them here as well. So that's new. Let me see here. For certain properties, we've now included a property description. So if a property is listed like on a, like a MLS or a Zillow component, and they've given, we have the property description, we will include it inside of BrightInvestor. Let's see here. What else would you guys need to see as well? There's a lot of back end stuff that I got upgraded that you don't need to worry about for now. You've just been making things smoother and easier to use. And we removed about 20, 25 small bugs that were identified as just annoyances. That is those are the things that we just released in this new version, in addition to 50 things in the back end. We have some more things that are dropping out here very quickly, including the new skip tracing and the LLC skip tracing. That's probably the fastest thing that's coming out next. And a couple other components that I'm not quite ready to release yet, but that's what we have on the new version so far. If you have not already done so, make sure you go up to your website here in your browser and you click this little icon in your search bar and you clear your cache. So that's all you have to do is click on cookies and site data, manage on device set site data, click the little arrow icon, and then clear these 3 trash icons. Once you've done that, you will clear the cache for the BrightInvestor, and that will make sure that you are using the latest version available. Then you go ahead and log back in. Are there any questions about the new version, upgrades, updates, or anything of that nature so far? Cool. I appreciate that. And I bore you guys with all the back end stuff that we did to fix it. Just know that it was a ton of work. It was an ungodly amount of work on the behind the scenes to do a ton of changes here. But this time I don't have a whole bunch of front end. You know what? Scratch that. I have one more kind of cool thing that I want to share. I think it's neat. I think this works for all these data types now. So this is something small. It's you guys probably are going to think it's cool, and that's fine. Like I'll accept that. But for the data on the sidebar, we thought it could be really useful if, in addition to the charts of information that we give you, we also just gave you a list of all the different zip codes and how they've been growing. So if you want to see which zip code grew the fastest, you can now filter that. and see instantly which zip code's growing the quickest. The other cool part about that, which I really like, is if you are hovering on the table, it will highlight it on the map.
Oh, yes.
So it's just it's a tiny thing, but if you're like, oh, this zip code sounds nice, you can now it'll now highlight that one zip code for you. So now you can go ahead and search for those ones that make the most sense for you. You can say, oh, this one's negative 12%. Don't like that. So it's a tiny thing, but it's a little bit easier to go find those zip codes instead of having to remember which one it is. It's just there for you that you can find. All right, so that should be available for appreciation, population, and a couple other data types on here as well. That should be all good to go. All righty, got some comments in the chat here. Let me see. I get so tired of filtering properties in floodplains. Chester, I got you. Ricky, I actually appreciate that feature. What feature were you referring to at that moment? Sorry. Growth? Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. I'm glad you like that. So we wanted a way to help you just compare and contrast really quickly. Perez, review that part. How do you do that? You mean the table and the highlighting?
Yeah, you know what's
Perfect.
funny? Because you said appreciation, and then I clicked on that tab, and there it was. I see exactly.
Perfect. So now it should be a little bit faster as you're going through this to say, okay, which one's which do I like? Okay, you know what? Instantly, there's the green means good, but also you the table right there just to make it a little bit, smoother and easier as well. So we'll make tiny adjustments to that as well as we continue forward. But that's one thing that the team brought up to me, and I thought it'd be a pretty good deal.
I need to tell you something, Donato. This is what I was doing manually. Oh, it's all blur. I don't know how to take off the blur of this. I wanted
Oh,
to
so did that just fix that?
yes, absolutely. I have
Okay.
it, and then I have it by zip code and growth, and I also had it by income. So,
Oh, perfect.
and
Okay. Well,
so
then I'm
yes,
glad.
instead of I'll send you a picture, but to me, it's very
Perfect.
helpful that I love it.
I'm glad to hear that. If you guys are doing anything manual like that, call me, tell me, let me know because I can probably code a solution for it. So Paulina, for you, when you generate the map, all you want to do is come down here and click rows per page all, and then you can just filter through here. And we made it in a way specifically where you should be able to, this can be, this copied and pasted. You can take this, you can screenshot it. It's all right there for you.
Yes, and I also
So
did it by income. I started uh like which one
per-
was was the highest income, just so you know if you decide to do
great.
either of this.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm glad. Okay, that was a win. Now I'll let the team know that one was a win, which is good. Okay. Perfect. Other thing, as well. Oh, geez. Hold on. I gotta make sure I show this appropriately. There is now the ability to save some settings for property reports. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. When you guys are creating property or Bright reports for the product for a particular asset, oh, that's a lot of deals. Okay. And when you click on a Bright reports, let it load for a second for all the market data it's pulling in here. Market trends, create Bright report. Okay, great. When you click create Bright report, you guys know that you can choose what you're sharing with people or what you're not sharing with people if you want to like keep anything private. Now, when you click share settings, this button is here. So you guys mentioned it'd be nice to be able to save defaults so that by default, this isn't being shown. You can now do that. So if you're like, hey, I never want to tell people who the owner is, I never want to tell people what I think the property's worth, I never want to tell people the loan information or I don't know, the seller motivation. You can simply save it for this property, or you can save it as the default moving forward so that all future reports you generate won't be showing that information. Just a little bit of an easy thing to do in the event that you guys are going to be sending out a lot of reports. Let's see, anything else that I need to highlight? I think those are the main ones. Those are the main ones. And of course, we'll get an email out describing those things, and you guys will get an update here soon with the next thing that we have coming out for you. But I've taken enough time of just chit-chatting away tonight, so I would love to go ahead and open the floor up for questions and make sure I bring in some value. Oh man, Brett, how are you doing?
Yeah, so far great. I love that you're diving into this, and I learned so much already in just what, like 21 minutes of being on this call. Man, it's awesome. Here's the thing. So I'm in Central Florida, and I live in Davenport, but there's a city right next to me. It's called Poinciana, Florida. I type in Poinciana, Florida, and then I do a data search, and it doesn't show anything. There's an error. It says nothing available. But then I put in my neighboring city, which is Davenport, and it shows me everything available. Am I missing something on how I'm
No, you're not.
searching?
So this
Okay,
no, this is a bug that we found today that we are
okay,
fixing right now. Okay. So now, okay, I'll tell the story. So basically, the way that we show you guys property information, we had to completely rebuild it so that we
mhm,
could try to make the loading times faster inside the product and make it easier to use. So what that did is, long story short, if it's not a major city or like a major primary secondary city, it basically just like said, oh, there's no property out of here. Like, no, there is, but certain area cities of under a certain size got like cut off from the fix that we had to do. So right now we are making edits to the system to fix that bug. That is not a you thing at all. And in fact, that hot fix, that's what we call them, hot fixes or quick fixes. That's actively being worked on by the team as we speak. And yeah, he's clocking out. He's been working on it for the last like hour and a half. So that should be fixed by the time you go to bed tonight. To be clear, so that's not
okay.
you.
Just so in general, right? And it goes for any market out there. The reason why it's showing up is because it's a certain population number. It's not fitting that algorithm, and that's why it's not a button that I needed to press.
Yes, correct. Essentially, that's an us issue on the back end that's being fixed. So whenever we
Okay.
push a new version live, almost always something breaks that wasn't supposed to. That was one of the things that got broken um, with this latest release. But that's not you. That's us that we should be fixing. So that plus about seven more things will all be pushed in the next couple hours, going live.
Got it. I think if you don't mind, I have another question. I think it's
Yeah,
kind of going to the group. Are there any people in here that are wholesaling this information, or are they looking for their own personal? I guess I'm trying to understand, like, how can I use this tool to work as a wholesaler and as an investor? I guess I'm trying to figure out what would be a good option, if that makes any sense.
sure. Yeah, I mean, you've got folks in here. Please feel free to unmute yourself. We got folks in here who are doing buy and holds, burrs, potential flips. Um, Folks who are doing, let's see here, some there's some folks who are wholesaling on the kind of the on our business side as well. But a lot of folks are using it personally for their own properties, being able to search and run numbers on deals. So whether you're finding things on market or finding things off market, um, being able to type in the address, get the comp, the rent comp, get the market research, and run the numbers, and then use the reports to either go to a bank or talk to the spouse or talk to their companions about or colleagues about this deal. And then doing the market research around those areas to see which parts of town they might be interested in are the primary ways that people are leveraging it. If you're wholesaling deals, best way you can do it is you can pull lists for off-market opportunities and then use the skip trace function to cold call people and get their phone numbers. Because everyone gets 100 free phone numbers a month for free. Um, and also, if you're on the phone with someone and you have a potential lead, you can type for example, if you are going to wholesale, That's why we have the wholesale calculator. So let's just say you are, I don't know, let's say you're looking for a decent wholesale deal. And you say, okay, great. That means I need to find a part of town that's appreciating really quickly because that's where the flippers want to be flipping. And that's where the home prices make the most sense right now. Great, no problem. Let's say I'm in Indianapolis. We'll do an appreciation map to get an idea of where those home prices are generating going up the fastest. And that's right in these dark green areas, or I can use my handy dandy new chart and easily, there you go. These 3 zip codes are where I'm growing the fastest. So I might come over here and say, you know what, this zip code looks interesting. I'm going to go ahead and try to wholesale here. Let's go ahead and look for off-market properties that are in this zip code. And let's say they have to be at least 3-bedroom, at least 2-bathroom. And let's look for someone that has a motivation to sell. So let's find ourselves a high equity, individually owned, absentee, out-of-state landlord that has owned it for at least 20 years. Does that exist here? Maybe. We'll find out. No, okay, too specific. That's okay. Let's go ahead. Let's find someone, let's say 10 years and we'll do 10 years. See what we got here. And I might be running into the same issue I had. I might be running that same bug that you're running into. We'll find out. Okay, let me try this. Let me see where that bug's issue is. Yeah, okay. A lot of properties in that market that make that for a lot of our properties that meet that criteria. Okay. So I might come in here and say, okay, great. Here's a property. It's off market. It's owned by an absentee owner that is free and clear. They bought it for cash. They've owned it for over 15 years. Guy lives in Indianapolis. In fact, if you look at this, Salvador Lopez is the owner. He owns the property next door. This is 1642 South Delaware, and he lives at 1644 South Delaware. So he lives right next to this property. So I can click on linked properties, and I'm going to see, yeah, he owns 3 deals. One is his home, right? The other one's going to be this property, and one's going to be a third property. He has a small portfolio. So you would come in here and say, okay, great. The property is probably worth about, if I look for other 4-bedroom properties that are going to be built in the same, say, 10-year period, there are none. It's fine. The 20-year period. We'll call this property, yeah, it's older. It's a very old deal, 1890s. So it looks like it's worth about 206 based off recent comps. You'd come in here and pull the rents and say, okay, great. This property should rent for about $2,400. You come over here to your deal analyzer and say wholesale. If this property's after value based on recent comps is 200,000, you would say, okay, great. The ARV times say 70% minus your estimated repairs minus how much you want to make as a wholesaler. You can factor in how much your end client is going to borrow for hard money. So let's say that they have a hard money lender who's going to give them 10% interest rate with 2 points. Maybe it's a bad money lender, maybe they're 12% in 2 points, and they're going to spend 3 months renovating it. We're going to estimate their closing costs and estimate their annual taxes. And in order for them to make money, you would say, great, you need to offer this guy $100,999 so that you can sell it for $10,000 to your end buyer for 110. And your end buyer is going to spend 33 grand fixing it up, 25 grand in wholesale and buying costs, and they're going to profit 36,000. So this is a quick way to say, here's what you need to do. Now, if your buyer's like, you know what, here's what I think it's going to need for repairs, great. If you're like, you know what, I want to make $25,000 on my wholesale fee, and I don't really, it doesn't matter to me how much this person makes. Maybe I'm cool with them making less or more, I don't know, right? But what this is going to do is tell you, hey, how do you make a deal work that's actually going to wholesale? You leave some meat on the bone. And so this is going to help you calculate how much meat on the bone you're leaving to the next guy.
What does buy
Yeah.
a long term mean? 2 years?
Buyer loan term is basically if you're doing a hard money loan, sometimes they'll have you like a 6-month term or a 12-month term. So the entire loan is due at a certain time. Normally they're like a 1 year to 2 year term. So you can put that in there. So this is how you would run the numbers as a wholesale. Or if you were to buy it yourself, you come over here as a long-term rental and say, hey man, let's say you got the property under contract for $86,000, right? And you did the $30,000 of rehab that it needs. You put 20%, maybe when time you're all said and done, you put 20% down, you get a nice little managed property manager in there, you'd cash flow like crazy, right? Cash flow like crazy on something like this. So that's we run the numbers as a long-term rental. So if you have a property you're looking at on Zillow, pop in the address on BrightInvestor, use it to find comps, run your numbers, ready to go.
Let's
If
say I
you
wanted that same property, but as a flip. Let's just say I wanted
yeah,
to be the flipper.
yeah, then we click fix and flip. And so we'd say, let's say that we'll use the same example, right? So let's say I'm going to buy it from this guy for $111,000. 11000. And let's say in this case, I'm going to put
25%.
10% down, and my interest rate's going to be 12%. And let's say I'm going to spend 33 grand. I'm going to do all these things. And let's say I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to have to pay my ARV of 206. And I'm not paying any points in the situation, right? I'm not paying any points at all. Okay, great. So in the situation, I'm going to gross $94,000 and net around 43,000. So we could run it a couple different ways here. And remember that those all save so that by the time that we create our Bright report
Oh,
and we generate this, when you send it to, could be a private money partner, could be whoever you're choosing, those calculators save here. So they can say, hey, here's the numbers for a long-term rental, a fix and flip, and a wholesale. And all those numbers get saved. So they can see the work that you've been doing. But they, of course, can always run their own numbers right here. Any other questions about that? Now, for you, like if you're going to flip, right? I always tell people in this area, in this office hours, you're going to flip, watch the days on market, right? Make sure you're watching days on market for sure. And in this area, days on market's going down. Properties are selling faster and faster here. That's fantastic. Great, right? That's better for you. But at the same time, note this: population is down 22% over the last decade, and the income growth is great, right? Up 83%, but the median household income is still only 45 grand. So if you're gonna don't go do a $500,000 flip in this area, and the median home price is 285, right? And know that what people can afford here is they're making $45,000 a year. That's what they're going to be able to. That's what they're getting a loan off of. So use this to make sure we're not going to over renovate or do the wrong project at the wrong point in time.
I have a feeling those people are renters.
Yeah, probably. So that's how we'd start there.
Um,
All right. Any other questions, my man? Feeling good? Julio. Perfect. All right, and we'll get those again. We'll get an email out once he has some last minute fixes. The way we typically operate is we will push a version live to you guys, and then we think we've gotten everything tested, and then immediately we'll go through and we'll find like 5 things that went wrong. We try to push it to the version. So we typically do not announce new versions on the emails until we've gone through and fixed any minor issues that have come up between when we push it live. So typically by the time we push those things live, we've gone through, we tested those things, we're good to go. So you'll get an email out with everything once we've made 100% sure we're rocking and rolling.
Hey, Donato, how you doing? It's Santiago. Can you hear me
Doing
okay?
great. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Hey, I had a question. When I'm looking for properties and and I'm looking in different zip codes or cities or whatnot, I'm looking for places where appreciation is somewhat substantial, right?
Sure.
Maybe income is somewhat substantial. It's a good indicator of growth. But how do I know? And I don't know if this is within the app or maybe it's just knowledge that you have with your experience, but how do I know if maybe the market is just too hot at that point, right? So take Florida and Texas, for example, everything
Yeah.
grew exponentially and then everything's dropping back to more normalized levels, right? So how would I know
Yeah.
we're at that point? Can't know for sure without, looking into the future. But is there something that, maybe kind of triggers your thought process when you're looking into this thing? Make sure you're not buying into something that's overpriced.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say like, you got a market in Florida, you want to, I mean, you guys are both in that.
Go to Davenport.
Let's look at Davenport. We can look at Davenport or Lakeland, like a nice spot. Let's take a look at Lakeland. Let's do Lakeland.
Mm.
So take a look see here. First and foremost, right, when we look at these home prices for the short answer here is we're going to look at days on market appreciation and price per square foot. Short answer. So when I'm looking at this, right, I'm zeroing in on the fact that a lot of this growth happened since COVID-19. And then since this point in time, right, since May of 2022, so almost 3 years ago, Lakeland's done virtually nothing.
Mm.
Home prices have been flat for 3 years.
Mm.
So interest rates whenever we see that situation, right, but interest rates has gone up, generally speaking, if the demand wasn't there, we'd see home prices coming down. If demand is still there, we'd see home prices staying stagnant because the demand is still high enough to keep prices as they sit, but it's not high enough to keep them moving. So what I'm looking at is to say, okay, great. What's going on in this market from a have home prices continue to climb or have they not? And then what I'm going to do at the same time is come up here and say, okay, great. I see that May 2022 is when things started kind of being weird. Let's just run the numbers from May to now. And check this out. I'm going to change my map to say, this shows me how zip codes have been performing since that point in time. And I'll see, okay, now it's a different story, right?
Mm.
Home prices are down about 1%. In fact, the only areas that are still growing since May of 2022 are these two. These are the only ones. Everything else has seen pullbacks. And Santiago, let me point this out to you. The median home price here was 375. Median home price here was 350. Median home price here, 281. Median home price here was 200. Median home price here was 270. 395, 334, 430. Very easy to tell that every area that had average home prices over $275,000 saw a pullback. Nowhere else did.
Okay.
That is your first sign of which areas are seeing pullbacks, which areas are still dominating. Now we're going to do the same thing, okay? I'm going to do the same thing for price on market for days on market, and say we're going to go to May 2022 for the whole city. Show me which areas have gotten faster and which areas have gotten slower since those period of time. I expect this to all be red. I'm going to guess it's all going slower, but we'll find out. Yeah, I was right. Okay. So there's not a single place in Lakeland where homes are selling faster than they were back then. In fact, as we can see, in May 2022, homes were selling with 24 days. Now it's 82. 91, this area went from 25 days to 91. 17 to 72. 16 to 84. 31 to 91. 32 to 72. Everywhere is having a hard time. But still, the fastest place to sell a house in this city is this zip code, 33801, which is the same zip code that was still growing in home prices. It's the only place where that's still happening. So now we do the same thing on a price per square foot level.
You
Price
see
per
how
square
many,
foot.
you see, just interrupt. Can you see how many houses are on the market there?
Oh, we can see new listings. Yeah, we'll be able, you can using the property market research component. Yeah, we can see how many new listings there are. And so here, right, we look at price per square foot. Price per square foot is trending down, and everywhere that we see this information, we're trying to get an idea here of, okay, great, where is the price per square foot declining? Where is it increasing? We're seeing declines pretty much as another bug. That's another bug I gotta figure out. That the only area where home price per square foot is going up is right here at 208 bucks a foot. So all that's to tell me that this zip code right here, or this Crystal Lake area, is the most resilient part of town right now. And everywhere where we're seeing that appreciation come down and the price per square foot come down, is going to be a situation where those areas are probably pulling that back from their peak. So we want to come in, offer below their current median home values to make those things work. Is that going to answer your question, Santiago?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So yeah, it looks like basically the indication is once, last 2, 3 years, if the prices stay flat, that's one indication. Then the price per square foot going down, another indication, and then the median price, another indication if it's getting lower over the last 3 years or compared to 3 years ago. And there was one more, I think, days on market. If that keeps growing compared to 2, 3 years ago, then basically the whole market's slowing down.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and I guess
exactly.
you could say
So
the inverse. The inverse of that would be also true, though, right? Then, right, it's a hot market. It's a growing market. If the inverse is true of all of those.
yes. And so exactly what we're looking at. So that's how I'm looking at this to say, hey, which areas are stronger, which areas are seeing a little bit more of a pullback right now. And then we can talk, I mean, personally, what I do the same thing is I'd say, okay, great. Is our income still the same as well? So ideally, right, what we're probably going to see is an overlap in where people are making more money and what the affordability is. More than likely or not. More likely than not, we're going to see something like that. And I bet we're going to see the same thing if I did a population growth map, I'd probably do the same thing here as well. So all these places, right, are seeing, okay, this is a income of 70 grand, close to 70 grand, 55 grand, 36, 49, 63, 85, 96, 100. So the areas that saw the most resiliency in continuing to see home price growth were the lowest income areas of Lakeland. Whereas the highest income areas of Lakeland were seeing the biggest pullback. People who are actually pulling back on their spending and they're choosing to buy homes. So these areas are showing, okay, great. These buyers still want to transact. So this is basically where the cheapest homes are, we're still seeing growth. Where the most expensive homes are, we're seeing that pullback.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I do have an example, but I'll
Yeah,
if you want to look
no,
through
go
it,
ahead.
but we can have
Go
other
for it.
people ask questions. I don't want to hog the call. You sure? All
Yeah, go for
right.
it.
All right. So this is I have a property in Winter Park. The zip code is 32792.
So you don't know if it's pulling back or not.
That's interesting. It says Aloma, so it should be Winter Park. That might be another bug.
Wait, sorry, 32792?
Yeah, it's the right zip code, and it looks like it's the right area. Just for some reason it says Aloma there.
Is Loma over? Yeah. On the Google map.
Interesting.
Okay, sorry, there's Winter Park. Yeah, so technically the zip code is it's always interesting when people do that, right? The zip code is technically not Winter Park. Technically, Winter
Interesting.
Park is probably yeah.
Okay,
So for
cool.
here, let's take a look at this. So for example, appreciation in this area. Let's take a look, see here. Okay. Bit of a pullback here.
Mhm.
So we were peaking around 480, and we have pulled back to around 380. So $100,000 median decline in a year and a half. That sucks.
Yeah.
In fact, home prices right now are the same they were back in August of 2021. So was that 3.5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen that correction. 380 seems to be the new normal here. So what I'm going to do is come on back and take a look at our days on market at the same time. Like I would definitely, oh, sorry, Jason, what's up? Oh, sorry, I thought you were raising your hand. Sorry, my bad. Um, okay. At the same time here, right? At the same time, median days on market has gone from 32 to 74. Huge increases. Another telltale sign the market's in a pullback, right? Now, granted, it peaked as high as 66 back in 2022. Now we've eclipsed that peak. In fact, the last time it was this high was 2020. Finally, come over here to our price per square foot. So it was a great metric to take a look at and see how home prices are see how we've been shifting up. At the same time, price per square foot skyrocketed in 2021. And then since then has done virtually nothing since 2022. In fact, its most recent pullback was summer 2023. It's been pretty rock solid since summer 2023 at about 245 a foot. So what do I know? That the zip code's average is 245 a foot, and right now homes are selling for $380,000. I want to be buying a $380,000 house or less at 245 square feet, and I'm looking for a 1,500. The median house in this area is 1,550 square feet. So if I want to buy a 1,500 square foot house for less than $380,000 on average here. That's what I'm looking for. And when we look at the bed count for this zip code specifically, see that most of the properties here are 3 and 4 bedrooms.
Mm.
And if I go to my 3-bedroom rents, 3-bedroom rents are up 7%, but they had a big pullback. How about my 4-bedroom rents? They're up 12%. They also had a big pullback. So what I want to look for here is show me if I'm buying a property, right, in this zip code, show me an off-market, at least 3-bedroom, at least 2-bath property that's going to be max 400 grand, max, and go from there and say, okay, great, show me those. And then let that do its thing. And then we want to say, great, we know if we pay anything more than like 380 if we pay anything more than say like a 380,000 for a 1,500 square foot property, we're paying more than average.
Mm. So far, what I'm seeing is just basically a lot of pullbacks, a lot of I can't tell if it's gonna keep dropping though, right? It's just I can only see that it's pulled back a bit.
Yeah. So when it comes to forward projections for those pullbacks, right, and like being able to kind of read the tea leaves of what's going on, essentially what we want to look at here is, do the other market fundamentals support the growth that we're seeing? So if I look at the population growth, right, over the past, call it 10 years, are people still moving here as aggressively as they were? Pretty much.
Mhm.
It's growing slow and steady, some peaks, some valleys, but it's still moving up. It's great. Is the income continuing to climb up over the last, say, 10 years? Absolutely. Put to the right. Fantastic. You absolutely have that. Things like, let's take a look at the rent to own. How has this been trending? And we've seen it used to be 50-50 split, and now we've seen a consistent growth towards ownership. More people want to own their own houses in this area. So people are moving here, they're making more money, and they are owning their own houses. All of that is in support of a growing submarket. The fact that we're seeing a pullback right now from 480 to 380 tells you that we've already seen a pretty big step back in reduction. So what I recommend to you is saying, okay, great. Honestly, it doesn't matter what other people are doing or what they want to sell a property for right now. If you're trying to buy a 4-bedroom property in this area and you know that rents are about $3,000 and they pull back from their peak of 3,500 to this that fast, and you look back in time and you say, hey, I look at here, the previous lows were around 2,900 to 2,800. If you can buy a property that's a 4-bedroom for under $380,000 that can rent for that can cash flow at between $2,800 and $2,900, you're protected.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Because we know that the market fundamentals are good, and as long as we buy the properties where it makes sense for you, we'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. That's a good way to look at it.
Absolutely. That's why I tell people all the time, hey, the last fourplex I was under contract on, right? First one was they wanted like 295. I'm like 240, take it or leave it. They're like,
Mhm.
well, we'll do 245. Like that's what I thought. It doesn't matter. I truly it does not matter what you want for it. This is where it makes sense, and
Mhm.
that's where your downside is protected. So we offer where it makes sense for us, based off where we know the market's heading. We go from there.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it. All right. Any other questions? Support I can offer this time of need.
Right now, I'm not able to open BrightInvestor on my browser, but I don't know if it's just me and I need
At
to
all?
at all.
Okay. Did you clear your cache?
No, I did open a new browser, a new window per se.
Okay. What if this is another bug? Okay. This is good information for me to have. Okay.
I just opened it, so it's good here.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. That's also the most annoying thing when like one person has a bug and nobody else does. Oh, it kills me. So I gotta figure out what's going on there. Paulina, let's try here. I'll give you these instructions right now.
Yeah, well, while
Go
we're
ahead
on
and
bugs, something that usually happens to me is I have to log off and log back in for it to work. For some reason, after a while, it just stops working.
to log out, log back in. Okay, this is good. This is good to know. Okay, have to log out and log in. Systems. Okay, this is good. This is good to know. Okay. Do you know how long it normally takes that to happen? Is like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours? Any
It's
ideas?
no, it's gonna be a lot longer than that. Probably like days. Like I'll come back and check on something, and if it's not working, usually logging off, logging back in works. Yeah. Opening
Okay,
a
so
new
if it's been
browser,
logged
clearing
into,
cookies doesn't work. For some reason, there's it I'm not I'm not sure beyond that, honestly, but
okay, so if it stays logged in for multiple days in a row, then it can cause an issue.
yeah.
Okay, 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 that's good to know. Selena, I just put that in the chat for you. This probably has to do with the new launch we just did. It's always something. After 3 years, you think it'd stress me out less. It doesn't. It's always something. Let's see here.
Okay, I was using first Firefox and then Safari.
Okay. Firefox is sorry. Can you try Chrome for me?
I am gonna try now the
Okay.
I I don't I don't know if I have Chrome. Let me check. Yes. Mhm.
Hey, let's see what else is going on here. This is good. Anything else you guys have, please let me know. This is very, very good
Yes.
for me to have.
Yeah, mine
Uh,
is opening. So I was just but I'll I don't know. I can reboot my computer after and see if it works.
So the Chrome didn't work for you.
No.
Okay, and having it not work across three different
Hmm.
browsers is odd. If you want to give me a message afterwards, I'd be happy to hop on and kind of diagnose that with you, see what's going on there. Feel free to send me a message.
Okay.
Let's go here. Any other things you guys have noticed? This is good. This is very good feedback for me. Tend to get a lot of messages that I typically put into feedback. If there's anything else, please let me know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. Okay, great. Go here. Blah, 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 blah. All right. I hear anything? Okay. Are there any other questions I can help answer
Yeah,
tonight? Oh yeah.
yeah, Donato, it's Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How you doing?
I'm
I
doing
just
good, sir.
I just had a quick question with regards to appraisals. There's some properties that I'm looking at, and to essentially kind of do like a Burr Light, right? And the question that I always come across is, if I were to, renovate the kitchen and the bathroom and do this and do that, the $1 million question is how, what would the ARV be, after doing that? Is there any guidance that you can provide it as it relates to that? Because that's the Russian roulette of a lot of improvements to ensure that you're going to get your return on investment.
Yeah. So being able to find the right ARV. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna sit down for this. I'm getting old these days. What they used to. So one of the things we can do in doing that is part of the reason that we do it this way is, let's say I have a property, for example. One of the reasons that we in the sales comp section, so like for example, this is a property that just got listed, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet, 399. So you can see it's all right here in BrightInvestor. Right, no problem. So they're calling it 1,600. Okay, sure, I'll agree with them. But one of the reasons that we do this with the sales comps, the ability to edit everything, but also is the ability to click on each single one of these little listings as well. So if I have this property up and I see, oh, interiors are paint, LVP flooring with a completely updated kitchen with a kitchen tile backsplash, new fridge, new counters, and that's a decent, okay, that's not updated. That's 1970s. You have yourself a wood panel. So taking a look at this condition, right? That's a decently updated property, but they skimped out when it came to finishing out some of the other rooms. And I come over here and I say, hey, great. I see, oh, I don't know, let's find a property that was the exact same beds, exact same bath, that was in the 10-year build period, that's within 20% the same size. Okay, great. And we filter by sold date, right? Like for example, this property here sold for 300 grand recently. And so what we can do is come up and take a look at some of these other properties and take a look at how their condition was. Like, oh, let's say, oh, I don't know, this one that sold for 280. We can pop it up and take a look at some of the photos of the exteriors and take a crack at what the renovation kind of looks like. They're telling me they put a new roof, they put a new HVAC on it. Okay, great. They put on oh, let's see here, right? They put on new HVAC, new roof, they put on newly painted property, gas stove. And we can use these comps and link and check them out on a kind of renovation to renovation like comparison. like
right.
even with this one, to
But
get a better idea.
if there was a property, actually one of the properties I looked at, like just a couple blocks down the road, there was a brand new, total renovation of the property. So that to me represents the cap, right? Like you're not going
Yeah,
to get higher than that.
yeah, I would agree with you. Brand new builds that are fully renovated are going to typically establish the peak of the marketplace.
Right.
You shouldn't
So
expect it. Yep.
yeah. So
Go
I
ahead.
was looking. There's a property, specific numbers that they were selling it for 480, and this newer property that was fully renovated was like at 580. So as a bird, that doesn't really work because at 480, I still have to put $50,000-$60,000 into it, and then my LTV after the ARV doesn't doesn't pencil out. You follow?
Yeah. I agree. So them doing a 580 list price doesn't make sense. But something to always consider is build year. Build year is huge, as well when it comes to trying to validate the ARV comps and these types of things. So that's why the recommendation I give people is you should do exact match on beds or plus or minus one if there's limited availability. Exact match on bath plus or minus one. 15 to 20% on square footage, plus or minus 10 years on build year within 1 mile, and ideally within the last 12 months. That's your framework. And if it doesn't fit within that framework, it's not a good comp. It's not a good immediate comp. Everything else at that point is what we want to use. We want to use those parameters to establish ourselves as a solid comp first and foremost. So that
So you
new
said
build, go ahead.
bedroom, bathroom, year built, and within a mile proximity.
Yeah, exactly. That's the so yeah. So if I were to set this here, right, I would say this is what I would be suggesting. So an exact match on bed, exact match on bath, plus or minus 15% square footage, plus or minus 10 years in the build year within 1 mile in the last 12 months.
Oh, okay.
If it fits within that, okay, great. That's a pretty solid comp. That's what we're shooting for. If it's outside that, like you cannot compare 1965 vintage to a 2025 build. You just can't do it. I don't care if you spend
Right,
200 grand renovating it, it's not going to get the same valuation. And I don't
right,
care if you have a property that's 1,800 square feet and this guy's at 3,300. I don't care. It's completely different. All those things matter. And so having that exceptionally close proximity is going to be key. And that's why we also include this map in here. Like, for example, these 5 comps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are within the same neighborhood as our target property, right? Those comps are higher value to us than these comps that are across this waterway. General rule of thumb is anytime you cross a train track, double yellow road or highway, or waterway, you've kind of shifted neighborhoods when it comes to your comping capacity. So you want to be as close as possible to within your own neighborhood. So these 5 comps matter the most. So when I filter these for distance and I turn off all of these comps that are further away, I say Donato's only going to focus on these 5, which we can do without a problem. Now my comps tell me, based off these comps that are just like the criteria that I've set, and they're in the same neighborhood, I've got rock solid valuation of about 422 max. They listed it for 400. I think it's worth up to 422. Great. That makes me much more confident what I'm trying to do. And when I see that the current price per square foot in this area is 245, and wait, what was I doing? Sales count. Yeah, so the average price per square foot in this area is 245. The comps that are recently selling in this area are about 264 overall, right? That's what I'm seeing here. So these comps are selling for a little bit higher premium than the zip code on average. So, any questions about that?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Yes. Alrighty, guys. Well, it looks like we're at the top of the hour. So I want to say thank you all for being here and sharing some feedback with me on platform. And I promise you should expect another update within the next day addressing any of these minor issues. Apologies as always. I wish this was a cleaner rollout. There's always problems whenever we do a new version. So thank you for the patience here. Please write in with anything you guys see and we'll make it happen. You guys will get an email from us soon when these new updates are all, uh, put away and nice, neat, and organized. As always, we'll have our next call on Saturday. Actually, no. We're not having call Saturday. Sorry about that. No call this Saturday. I'm on a electronics-free retreat. I'm putting myself in a cabin for 2 days and by myself and just going to meditate and think about life for 48 hours. So I will be back come next Wednesday for the next office hours, and I will be back. But if there are any questions in the meantime, of course, we'll have our phones available. We'll have our email available, and you can always reach out to us. And we'll be here to help. Perfect. Thanks,
Thanks, man.
guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Got it.
Thanks, everybody.
Of course. Night.